This was a revolutionary project, ambitious in scale and unique in the region. His dream Herod named Caesarea. Thousands of workers toiled to make this dream a reality. Enormous wooden caissons are sunk into the sea to form the foundations of the massive breakwater. Out of the shifting sands, born both of skilled and pioneering engineering techniques, the harbor is taking shape. Herod's dream has become real. Where once there were dunes, now stands a beautiful harbor city, thronged with people and thriving with life. Ships carrying rich cargoes arrive from all corners of the empire. The elegance of Caesarea is admired throughout the region. Merchants and workmen are everywhere. Towering above the harbor, the fire is burning bright on the Drusian Tower, bringing ships safely to port. To honor his Roman patrons, Herod builds a temple in the harbor front and dedicates it to the goddess Roma and Augustus Caesar. In return, he gains the trust of the Roman Empire, and his reign reaches as far as Syria. After Herod's death, his heirs fail to step into his shoes, and his charismatic presence and tough regime are no more. His successors fade into the mists of time, and the Roman hold on Caesarea grows stronger. Caesarea becomes the capital of the Roman province of Palestine and headquarters of the Roman governor. The deepwater harbor is a source of income and employment to the flourishing city. Storms and earthquakes damage the breakwater and the fortified walls. Yet the city stands and attracts Jews, Christians, and pagans alike. A Jewish community develops in Caesarea and becomes one of the most dominant in the land. Its centers of education and knowledge draw numerous scholars. Many entertainment venues are established in Caesarea. Theater plays and horse races draw huge audiences. By the end of the 4th century, the Roman Empire collapses, and its place in the east is taken by the rising Byzantine Empire. This is a new era for Caesarea. Better fortified walls are built to surround it. The gladiators' games are banned, but chariot races continue to entertain citizens and their guests. Prosperity is everywhere. The markets are abundant with fine olive oil and wines, and trade is flourishing. Christianity becomes the official religion of the Byzantine Empire. The temple of the goddess Roma and Augustus Caesar is torn down to build in its place an amazing octagonal church. The city's wealth is clearly evident in the richly designed and decorated church. Alas, man-made work cannot survive the forces of nature for long. Severe earthquakes continue to hit Caesarea. Gradually, the breakwater's foundations deteriorate, and the harbor is flooded. Byzantine Caesarea, which was one of the most prosperous and fortified cities in the land, falls to the Muslim hands. A mosque with a magnificent arcade facing the sea is built where the Roman temple and the Byzantine church once stood. When the city's great harbor finally yields to earthquakes and storms, Caesarea becomes a sleepy town and its ruins turn into marble quarries. In the 12th century, once again the tides of war are upon Caesarea. European crusaders invade the land, hoping to conquer the Christian holy cities. From the struggle of war, Caesarea emerges to be rebuilt. A new quay is built in the harbor, and impressive crusader walls surround the reviving city. For 200 years, the wars between Muslims and crusaders have shattered the Holy Land. It is the year 1265. An immense and powerful Muslim army is approaching Caesarea's walls, led by the Mamluk Sultan, Baybars. After 3 days of battle, Baybar soldiers break into the city, spreading havoc and destruction. For the first time since its foundation, Caesarea is thoroughly demolished. Sultan Baybars does not rest until he razes Caesarea, wishing to wipe it from the face of the earth. Caesarea fades slowly into the realms of dream and fantasy for which it was created. But the legend of Caesarea does not end here. As it was created by the vision of Herod the Great, modern Caesarea has been revived by the vision of a single man, Baron Edmund Benjamin de Rothschild. The Baron purchased Caesarea's lands, aspiring to turn them into a unique place of creativity, tourism, community, recreation, and leisure. Thanks to him, Caesarea is prosperous again, and life fills the city once more. Today, Caesarea combines an industrial research and development park, a leading community, together with some of Israel's most beautiful tourist sites. The buildings that we see here are dated from over 100 years ago and were built for Bosnian refugees. But their foundations were laid precisely where once stood the Roman Temple, the Drusian Tower, and the ancient walls of Caesarea. Most of Caesarea's harbor is immersed under the sea, but the theater and the hippodrome stand as they were in ancient times. And the city's glorious past is evident and complements today's development. Thus, through thousands of years, Caesarea stands, a city made from dreams. A city where past, present, and future are combined together in perfect harmony.
The first people that inhabited this location here were the Phoenicians. Who were the Phoenicians? Lebanon. Phoenicia's Lebanon. We're not too far from Lebanon. First century BC. The Phoenicians were here, and this was called the Stratos Tower. Later on, 40 BC, Herod the Great, 37 BC, Herod the Great became a king here. So the Caesar Augustus Caesar, gave this piece of land as a gift to the king. So in honor of the Caesar, the king changed the name into what? into Caesarea in honor of Augustus.
That makes sense.
And that was the case for other cities as well. So this is not the only Caesarea in the country. So this is called Caesarea Maritima or Maritime, that means by the sea. This is not Caesarea Philippi. Caesarea Philippi in the territory of Philip. This is not Caesarea Philippi. What happened in Caesarea Philippi? Jesus took the disciples mentioned in Matthew 16 to Caesarea in the territory of Philip. Not this one. I don't want you to be mixed up. In the territory of Philip. Who's Philip? What? Philip, one of the sons of King Herod the Great. So Herod the Great died 4 BC. The kingdom was divided among his sons. Herod Archelaus, Jerusalem, Judah, and this area here. Herod Antipas, have you heard about him?
Yeah.
Antipas, the Galilee area. And Herod Philip, the Golan Heights and that direction. So Jesus took the disciples to Caesarea and the territory of Philip, not this one.
Wow.
This one is also mentioned in the Bible. We're gonna reach there. But I don't want you to be mixed up with Caesarea Philippi and Caesarea Maritima. We do have other Caesareas as well in the country. One of the most important archaeological findings, don't break it. It's not original, okay? It's a replica. The original is at the Israel Museum in Jerusalem. And this tablet has these words. Pontius Pilate, the prefect of Judah, erected a building dedicated to the Emperor Tiberius. Can you see how important this archaeological finding? It was found 1900 years in the 20th century, 1920s, 1900 years after these people existed. Was found in the theater. 1900 years later or after these people, and y'all know who Pontius Pilate is, the one that condemned Jesus to death.
Right.
And here we have his name and his title. Pontius Pilate, the prefect of Judah, erected a building dedicated to Tiberius and his title, the emperor. So we know, we read about Tiberius the emperor, we read about Pontius Pilate, the prefect of Judah, and to find an archaeological proof 1900 years later, that makes it really very, very important. Okay.
Wow.
Again, this is a replica. This is not original. The original is at the Israel Museum in Jerusalem. Right, Herod the Great. Why was he called the Great? He's a great builder. We're gonna see many of his projects that he did. Here, he's the one that built Caesarea. He built a theater there, a hippodrome for horse and chariot races. He built a palace here. And the palace, can you see these columns there? The broken columns. Towards us, where did this palace end? Herod's palace. Herod the Great's palace. We're in the middle of the palace. Can you imagine? Half of it in the water, half of it in land. And have a look at the one in the water. Can you imagine? 2 stories building palace in the water. 2 stories building. With a pool in the center. Mosaics. I wanna y'all see the mosaics around the pool. That makes it a very fancy palace. So, and he built a private port for himself, for his palace, in addition to the public port. Can you see that building with the flag? And the public port was built there. One of the largest ports. We're talking about
Wow.
the 37 BC, the first century. He's a great builder, Herod the Great. So this place here is very important. Due to political point of view and strategical point of view, this eclipsed Jerusalem and became the seat for the Roman government. And this became the capital of Palestine under the Romans for a couple of 100 years then. That was built by King Herod the Great, used later on by the Romans, the Byzantines, and it has a long history. Before King Herod, the Phoenicians were here, then Augustus Caesar and King Herod the Great, the Romans, later on the Byzantines. And who were the Byzantines? Byzantines, however you pronounce them. Sorry?
British?
No, Romans actually, that became Christians. Constantine, a Roman emperor, converted the pagan Roman Empire. We're talking 325 AD. He converted the pagan Roman Empire into Christian empire. And we call that era of time Byzantines. Or we have lots of Byzantine churches or ruins of Byzantine churches that we are going to visit. So that means Constantine and his mother, Helena, Queen Helena, Saint Helena is also called, started to build churches. They built many churches, included the Nativity, the Holy Sepulchre, and many other churches. So this is the Byzantine era. So we started with Phoenicians, Romans, Byzantines, Persians, 614, Muslims, 640 or 638, the Crusaders. Who were the Crusaders? Christians that came from Europe to rebuild the churches that were destroyed by the Persians. The Persians, 614, destroyed all of the churches in the Holy Land. So the Crusaders came here, 1099. 1105, they built a Crusader fortress there. And that was destroyed. Let's go in that direction to see that. Mamluk, that's in Arabic. For example, I bought this water bottle. It's mamluked by me. It's owned by me, right? So, Egyptian kings and sultans used to buy young kids from Asia Minor or Turkey of today. They used to take these young kids to Egypt. Turkey is up north, Egypt is south. So they took these young kids that were mamluked, were owned by the Egyptian kings and sultans to Egypt. And they trained them as soldiers since they were young kids, fighters, soldiers. They were very well trained. These Mamluk kids grew up very well trained, grew up very strong, and it happened they took the monarchy from the Egyptians. They became kings and sultans, but very strong. 1260s, 1265 in particular here, a famous Mamluk, his name is Bibers or Peppers, came here, defeated the Crusaders, destroyed Caesarea, and he's the one that destroyed many of the Crusader fortresses on the coastal plain. He was afraid that other crusades would come from the through the Mediterranean, re-inhabit these cities. So that was destroyed 1265 by the Mamluks, Bibers, Peppers. Later on, the Ottomans came here, 1517, to the country. Under the Ottomans, Muslims from Bosnia came, inhabited this place. They built, can you see that minaret? It's a mosque built by the Bosnian Muslims.
The tower looking like?
Yes, yeah. And that place was abandoned later on. 1917, the British came to the land. 1920s, under the British, this place became under excavation. And guess what? Until today, It's 100 years of excavation. This place is under excavation. Until today, we do have archaeological dig. Every now and then we find new things. So Caesarea, the capital under the Roman province here, is a big city that was planned and built by King Herod the Great. No wonder he's called the Great. May I remind you, he's the same one that killed the children when Jesus is born. But he's a great builder. He's the one that built or enlarged the temple in Jerusalem, built Masada, we're gonna see, and many other things. So Herod the Great. This place is mentioned in the Bible in Acts 10. Cornelius, a Roman centurion in Caesarea, saw a vision to look for Simon Peter, who's lodging at Simon the tanner's house in Jaffa. So Cornelius, the Roman centurion, sent his men to Jaffa, where they met Simon Peter, and Simon Peter came with them here, met Cornelius, baptized him, his family, and many other people. So this is very important. The first Gentiles, the first non-Jews. Cornelius is a Roman centurion, was baptized here, his family, many other people. So the first Gentiles that became Christians, you don't have to be a Jew to become a Christian. So the first Gentiles were baptized here. And this is a new era where not only Jews became Christians. It is also mentioned in Acts 24-25, where St. Paul was imprisoned here in Caesarea for 2 years. And Paul is a Roman citizen. And from here, he was sent to Rome. St. Paul was imprisoned in Caesarea. All right, so let's chariot races. We're not gonna do any race today, but they used to do some international races or games every 4 years, once every 4 years. That's like the Olympics, started from here probably. Okay? Yeah, whenever you're ready, we're going there.
You can never have enough.
That's an ancient toilet here, public toilet.
Multiply that still today. You won't have
Don't sit on you sit on 2 of them, and water will be running. You don't have to flush it. Okay?
You're on the.
I love your voice. You have led me through the fire, darkest nights. You were close like no other. I've known you as a father. I know you as a friend. And I have seen of the goodness of God. Yes, and all my life you have been faithful. Oh yes, yes. All my life you have been so good. So good. Every breath that I am able, I will sing of the goodness of God.
Amen.
Yeah. Hallelujah. Your goodness is running after me. Your goodness is running after me. With my life laid down, I surrender now. I give you everything. Your goodness is running after me.
Yes.
Hallelujah.
to Jerusalem. He must be up there by Pentecost. Then as the people begin to gather and come in, the Roman seat of authority is here and all the power. But somewhere out in the outskirts, in the outer areas, are the little communities and the little houses where the people of the way are staying. The people of the way, first name known of the Church of the Living God, the pillar and ground of the truth. The people of the way. It's mentioned several times in the book of Acts. And far out, lo and behold, here comes Simon the tanner. His tannery was right on down the coastline here, way out from anybody else because of the stench. They had to have a tannery outside of any of the towns or any of the cities. But here comes Simon the tanner. My God, he's got Peter with him. Lord have mercy. Then, great Lord have mercy. Look over here. Over here comes Philip, the evangelist, and he's got all 3 daughters with him that prophesy. And they're coming for a grand day of celebration as they're welcoming Paul back from the harvest. And they all come together in probably just a cottage prayer meeting or just a little prayer meeting. And then all of a sudden everybody says, ho, be quiet. Be quiet for just a few minutes. They say, why are we being quiet? Pull your hat off. Look, coming through the door, my Lord, that's the prophet from Jerusalem, Agabus, has made his way down here. And as he walks in, a God-sent, God-anointed, true blue prophet of God, pulling together the 5-fold ministry of the church right here in this place in the early days of Christianity. And as they gather around, he goes over and he takes a cloth or a shawl or a belt, maybe the King James would have called it. And he said, whoever this belongs to, the Holy Ghost says that you should not go up to Jerusalem because the Jews are waiting on you to try to kill you and destroy you and bring you under bondage because they hate you. They've swore a blood oath to kill you. They will not stop following you. They followed you on every missions trip to every country that you went to, wanting to shed your blood. And he weeps and he tells Paul, don't go up to Jerusalem, that 40 miles that our guide was talking about just on up here. And old Paul, look at him. I could almost see him hunched back just a little bit, little short man when you read the history about him. And a lot of people said his speech was contemptible. They didn't like what he sounded like. And when he spoke, he looked like he was going to spit on you because of that low guttural sound like you're hearing a lot around here. And he said, why, Brother Agabus, don't you know that I'm not worried to go up to Jerusalem? I don't care whatever they do to me. If they kill me, whatever is, I'm God's property and God's prophet. Whatever happens, nothing will deter me from going to Jerusalem to be there at Pentecost. But the prophet had said, they will bind you, and you know full well before you go. But Paul said, God has assured me that he will touch me and help me because I must go all the way to Rome to tell the good news of Jesus Christ. Sure enough, they rioted in Jerusalem and they bound him and throwed him into the prison. But miracle after miracle after miracle brought him right back here, put him in the dungeon right over there, and he had to come out and speak before Agrippa and Felix and Festus and all them old boys. And oh, great God. Whew, I better hug. Lord have mercy. I'm telling you. Somebody said they don't believe in the 5-fold ministry. They don't understand what happened. They don't understand our roots. They don't understand what God did when he far baptized a little. Whoa, glory to God. Come on, Bishop. Come on, I got to slow down here.
I can add to that. I can't do anything any better other than to remind you that it was in this area where we, the Gentiles, received our invitation.
Yes.
God bless
And
Yes,
you're here
amen.
today because of the invitation.
Yes.
Yes.
Amen.
Yes.
Let's get
Lord.
everything we can out of it, okay?
Yes.
God bless you.
While we're waiting, can you see the valley up to the mountain, halfway up? There is a big building, white stone color with a cone-shaped roof. Can you see that? That's the big church of the Annunciation. That's the place where the Virgin Mary and Joseph used to live in this vicinity. And that's the original village of Nazareth, a very small village. And Jesus was reading in a synagogue in Nazareth verses from Isaiah that talks about the Christ, the Messiah. He put the scrolls away, told the people today these words came true. Here I am. So he's declaring this that the people of Nazareth that healed them. People of Nazareth told him, we know who you are, Jesus, the son of Joseph the carpenter. And they took him to a steep hill. They wanted to throw him from a steep hill, but Jesus walked amidst them, left Nazareth. Where did he go to? Knoxville, Tennessee. Yeah. Capernaum. Later on today will be around the Sea of Galilee, or he went to the Sea of Galilee. So according to one of the traditions, that this is the steep hill people of Nazareth wanted to throw him from. But might not be the place. We don't know exactly. Now, the village is there. Maybe this is a way too far. Maybe this is a way too high. It's a hill. This is a mountain. But a tradition, as long as we can track back that this is the place. As I mentioned earlier, in the Holy Land, some places we're pretty sure. Other places we say maybe not. Okay. So the city of Nazareth there, the big building, white color stone with a cone shape halfway up that mountain, is the Church of the Annunciation, is where the village of Nazareth was ancient times. We're talking 2,000 years ago. The mountain that we see that direction is Mount Carmel. We were there yesterday up on top, the peak of Mount Carmel. And we see the beginning of the city of Haifa, where up on top is a building, a tall building, that's the University of Haifa. From there on, towards the right, is the city of Haifa, the major city, the third largest in Israel. This is the Jezreel Valley, the Valley of Armageddon. The shortest way, can you see this road? If you keep going straight, you reach the Samaria. That's the mountains through the haze. That's the Samaria mountains. So the shortest way to go from the Galilee, from Nazareth to Jerusalem, is that way straight. But if you take this way, you'll be passing through the Samaria. Jews and Samaritans were not friends, so they had to take a different way. That is the Jordan Valley. Can you see
Yes.
the gap, the cliff? That's where the Jordan River is. That's the Jordan Valley. That means you'll be passing through Jericho before you reach Jerusalem. And Jesus met Zacchaeus, mentioned in Luke 19, in Jericho. And Jesus had to pass through the Samaria, mentioned in John 4, when he met the Samaritan woman by Jacob's well. That is the Valley of Armageddon. This mountain is Moriah, Mount Moriah. Gideon defeated the Midianites, mentioned in the book of Joshua, on Mount Moriah with only 300 soldiers. The Valley of, this is the Jezreel Armageddon that leads to Beit Shan Valley, the Gilboa Mountains, and this is Mount Tabor. If you remember, we talked about it yesterday. One of the places identified the Transfiguration, mentioned in Luke 17. 6 days later, Jesus took Peter, James, and John to a high mountain apart and transfigured in front of them. His face shone like the sun, his clothes became dazzling white. Appeared to them Moses and Elijah. Simon Peter was afraid, didn't know what to say, and he said, let's build 3 tabernacles, one for you, one for Moses, and one for Elijah. A cloud overshadowed them, and a voice saying, this is my beloved Son in whom I am well pleased. Listen to him. The 3 disciples opened their eyes again, and they saw only Jesus. On the way down, Jesus told them, tell no one until the Son of Man will rise from the dead. So Mount Tabor is that mountain. The foothill of that mountain, can you see that village, that town? It's called Daburiya.
Say it again.
Daburiya, it's where the prophetess Deborah from. The battle between Deborah, Sisera, and Barak took place there when the wheels of the chariots were stuck in the mud, and that valley is full of terra rosa, the soil which is like this soil, red soil. When it rains, it will be very muddy. So Deborah, Sisera, and Barak battle, transfiguration, the foot of that mountain also. A city or a village called Nain. What happened in Nain? Luke 7 verse 11, Jesus raised the son of the widow in Nain. So that mountain, that village at the bottom of that mountain is Nain, where Jesus raised the son of the widow in Nain. A beautiful view from here, you may take pictures.